This is part three of the third episode of the Hypothesizzle podcast, where we do a response to the Today Online article "No Friends in Real Life" that blames the rise of depression and is saying that there is a youth epidemic of digital devices being proliferated among the youths, and there's something that Singapore has to be careful about as we move forward, as we brand ourselves as a digital nation. So we've covered a kind of like an honest response to it about how this article need not necessarily be representing things entirely fairly. And in the second part, we broke down kind of like the mechanisms behind this depression that's going on. And in this third part, we try to put a positive spin on things, and we try to examine things in a brighter light to say. And here's the hypothesis that we have, right? That the digital culture is here to stay. The digital devices are going to stay, right? It's like if you watch South Park, it's like those e-scooters. It's like you're not gonna round them up and throw them off a cliff and stuff like that. And you're gonna come back. It's like they're still everywhere.
Yeah, pretty.
If you get rid of all the iPads, you know what that means? Huawei invents it only means that if you ban iPads, it means that Huawei will have their version of it that bans whatever rule they have to ban in the first place. Because this is something that people have become reliant on. Like digital devices are here to stay and it's part of our culture. And digital engagement is something that we have to accept is going to be the norm of human interaction moving forward. I mean, but
All
I
right.
definitely do hope that we communicate less in emojis. That's something I just don't understand. It's like, why? Why? You can just
Yeah.
type, right? The other thing that I wish people would stop doing is I wish people would stop saying abbreviations of single monosyllabic terms, right? Like in Singapore, we have O chunky. That's three syllables. Don't tell me that we're gonna eat at OCK.
Oh God, I didn't even know that exists.
Okay?
Okay.
Don't tell me that we're gonna go eat at OCK. So that's my wish list when it comes to like my idea of acceptable social interactions. Technically, LL is also three syllables, friends. I laugh out loud. That's like, but I
It,
don't know.
it,
I don't know where you draw the line. Okay, to
I
me,
mean, you're not gonna type like like 534 like letters instead of like.
well, I don't know. Well, technically, in real life, you don't say LL, you say lol, right? So that actually like shortens three syllables to one syllable. So that makes sense. But don't tell me like let's go eat at OCK. That
Yeah, that's
why? It's all chunky and you can just say so, oh okay, so that's where you want to go eat. And it's like OCK. Where the hell's that? Where the hell is OCK? What's the original chicken Kentucky? I don't know.
I think it's fine if it's a like a widely known abbreviation, right? Like
Mhm.
KFC and things like that, or
Yeah,
like BK
But
Burger.
KFC is an abbreviation that makes sense. It's an
Yeah,
abbreviation
or
that
like
makes sense.
Burger
Like
King.
Kentucky, that's three syllables. You shorten it down to one. It's a K. Okay, you're getting efficiency out of that.
Yeah,
It's like then I'm pretty sure like somebody like who actually watches this and is gonna like comment. It's like some linguistic students like comments about the nuances of this. And it's like I'm sorry, I study engineering. To me, it's about efficiency. You're condensing three syllables into three syllables. No, that does not. That's not how it works. Okay,
that's
that
why I think it's a bit avoidable. Like thumbs up is okay.
yeah, I
So
mean, those are like. I mean, so here's the interesting thing, right? Like before internet memes, right? There's this field of study called memes. It talks about inherited memories and inherited behaviors that deals with these kind of things, like how do human beings know what a fishing rod is used for? So when it's this study of how like tribes people, they would know what a pot is used for. They would know how a fishing rod is used for. I mean, from the engineering perspective of it, we talk about this is the intuitiveness of design, but what makes design intuitive in the first place? And that was the study of memes, like there are genes, which are genetic traits they inherit, so that determines your physical appearances, but memes are actually like the psychological traits that you inherit. So that's something that was interesting. Like before, like that's why you could do a PhD in memes last time.
okay.
And that is a legitimate area of study. Memes was a legitimate area of study, and I think like now with the proliferation of internet culture, the internet meme is definitely going to be an area of study as well. Okay, fun facts and rants about abbreviations aside, right?
That means
let's let's get back onto how things can be better. Okay,
all right.
the article does bring up like dysfunctional families and stuff like that, and this ties in back to what I was saying at the start, where from what I have observed, um, increased digital use need not necessarily be a bad thing. And when we talk about these people entering a vicious cycle, I actually do find that the digital environment is actually a way for youth to break out of the vicious cycle. But it depends on how or what they're engaging with. And here's the thing, I think Jonathan Haidt, he did write about this extensively, about the medium, the digital medium that we use. And they talk about boys and why boys don't seem to be as greatly affected by this. I'm not saying that boys don't get depression and stuff like that, and men don't get depression and stuff like that. Is that because they tend to the the choice of partaking in digital medium tends to be in more competitive areas, which is why games have a much larger proportion of males partaking in like competitive gaming online. And competitive gaming is competitive. It's that's a form of socialization in itself. It requires a certain degree of teamwork when you play a team-based game, and through that you are able to build a network of people. Whereas for people who continue to engage in a digital medium exclusively through social media, then that is where the depression becomes a very self-fulfilling negative cycle, as in what we mentioned previously, because it, it, it gives you these very easy dopamine hits, and it just forces you into very it doesn't really help you socialize with people, right? You don't learn the rules of socialization. You don't actually participate and play with people in the use of social media. Trolling is perhaps as close as you get to it, but that's another whole can of worms when we talk about learning how to
Yeah.
socialize through the digital medium. So, and the article blames the parents in the last third of it and says that yeah, parents don't really know what to do with it. And I do think that this is one of the fair comments that it makes. And I think it's largely because parents they've never known how to deal with this phenomenon. And I think that a lot of people from the older generation, they themselves also figure out what are the rules of engagement like on social media. What are the rules of engagement like in a chat room? What can you do? What can you not do? Do you message somebody at 3 a.m. or do you go on a Discord channel and add everybody at 4 a.m. in the middle of the night? Right?
Yeah.
So the these people are moving into a new world of rules as well, and it's
Yeah.
very interesting. And because they don't know what these rules are, so they don't really know how to enforce them, and their existing set of rules need not necessarily uh, apply to the kids as well. Things like ending sentences with full stops. And I think there was articles written about this, about how when you punctuate your sentences properly and you exercise proper grammar, it actually makes you look intimidating. it
Yeah.
makes it makes you look like you're talking down to the president because you're ending everything with a full stop. It makes you sound pissed off.
Or at least there's some emphasis somewhere.
Yeah. So and it's just really interesting about the way things are happening. But I think that with time, I don't necessarily think. I think that this is a self-solving crisis. Like we're gonna have a decade of youth who are gonna come into this, and they're gonna have these very serious problems, and that is a crisis in itself. But I think over time we will come out of it, and people will have a better idea of these are things that we need to do. We need to be higher on the amount of meaningful social interaction. Memes are not going to go away, but we need to acknowledge that okay, this is what memes are doing to us, right? And if we want to talk about addiction, maybe memes are things that we should be really looking at, right? Like the number of times you're sharing the Pikachu with the open mouth is like, is that the
Yeah.
thing that's really causing a depression? I, or is that, okay? I phrased that wrongly. It's not causing the depression, but um, is that the thing that's setting our youth up to be at a higher risk of depression? That's the more appropriate way to do it, because
Well,
you're
well, in the
just
long
clicking a
term, it
button
might
and
lead
getting
to
a
that.
hit of endorphin.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty much that.
And
I
I'm
mean,
not saying that it's your fault that you share means and that therefore you have depression, but
that's
there's
part.
all these things that's going on, and it's affecting our brain chemistry, and it's affecting the way that we perceive things.
Yeah. I mean, back onto like the whole like parenting that might be a problem, or at least in the article it says sometimes are the problem. I mean, we have to also understand that we kind of came from this era or this like generation where we kind of transition into a lot of big changes in our life. Like as compared to like let's say I'm 30 this year. What happened in my first 10 years as compared to like my 10th to the 20th and 20th to the 30th? We kind of like transition into like very huge like changes in like in life, in society, even in technology. Like when I was much younger, we were still pretty much like normal people. We didn't have cell phones. Pretty much commute by I mean not commute, but we communicate just by normal telephone, we send letters and things like that. And of course, then we go through the different advanced ones. Then that's where the CD came in, radios, DVDs, and then now internet. So for us, we are fine. Well, I guess for our generation, we're still okay because we kind of like grow along with it. But the problem is like, I guess for our parents' generation, it's like this very huge gap for them, right? Like, they pretty much live like almost a good half to maybe three-quarter of their lifespan in like a certain era, and they're already used to that. And then all of a sudden, like towards their later, like be it half or quarter, they kind of like went through like these 2 to 3 sudden changes within like 2 decades. So for them, it's like it's pretty hard to adapt in a way.
Yeah,
So like,
I guess
yeah,
so.
yeah. So like for us, we can't understand, and it's good because you identify the problem, and so now no, we acknowledge that this is a problem. We know that the internet is not going to go away. It's like that, and kind of like work around it. But in a way, like like maybe like people who are just like slightly older, like maybe 10, 20 years older, became parents not too long. They have not grasped the situation and they have no idea how to deal.
And I don't think it's just parents. I think it's like society in general as well. Like the illiterate is Facebook is illiterate. You are not prepared. We were not prepared
Yeah, yeah,
for the
like
amount
this.
of instant gratification that we can get. And
Yeah, I mean like
and I mean I like to always tie this back to esports, right? And the reason why I really find that esports is a very interesting area because I do think that there's a little bit of the antidote in that in competitive gaming and socialization and being able to engage large amounts of people and create common experience with other people because that's how socialization happens through the creation of common experiences. You can say that bullying is a form of of a social experience as well, as much as we frown upon it. Not that I'm saying that bullying is good, right?
but it
But
is
it's a
what it is.
form of socialization that
Yeah.
that this digital medium has kind of numbed, and we partake in a much more sinister form of it, and it's like digital bullying. It's like and like social justice, like you're sharing this post to lynch mob somebody, and you're saying, "No, I'm punching up on somebody," but you're not really doing that. You're just doing in form of what we call alternative catharsis. You're just pressing it to feel good about yourself. So I think that there is a place for esports in trying to solve this problem. And it's not say that people are necessarily addicted to digital devices, but there is the real epidemic is a lack of knowledge of how to control things, of how to put in parental controls. And that probably is where the real feelings of this are. How do you monitor behavior? How do you shape behavior? And how do you guide behavior when you yourself don't really know how to behave on the internet? The number of people that are commenting on the Straits Time the Straits Times comments page. These are not these 11-year-olds that we're talking about. These people having political arguments on Facebook. These are not the 13-year-olds who are suffering from major depression. The people who are arguing over Brexit. And you're in freaking Asia.
Yeah.
I don't get it, and I think most people don't. Okay, I hope to have ended on a more positive note for that. But do you have any closing statements to kind of wrap up this one? And your response to this no friends in real life article?
Well, I mean, I think like the whole depression thing is just far fetched. There's just even they themselves don't have like a proper guideline to even diagnose the problem. So like why even factor to that? Of course we did agree that the societal thing, pretty much parenting is a part of it. It has to play important. And of course, we can actually delve into like other topics like even like addiction in general. What causes addiction? Is it because is it really like because of dopamine hits, or is there something because something that happened that leads to that individual seeking for instant gratification? I guess which also means that probably he feels like his life, so he has to find alternative, right? So maybe a guy who is pretty much contented with life and happy with what he that don't have that urge to look for that dopamine hit, which also equates to not having addiction eventually.
I mean
Because
that tends to happen in our lives, right? If we're not satisfied with something, we want to do something about it. But the
yeah,
problem, so there's nothing wrong with that. If things are not going well, we want to improve things. But the
Yeah.
problem is that we have skipped the improvement part. We have
Yeah.
skipped the
That, yeah.
improvement part. We're sharing a Pikachu meme and say, yeah, okay, everything's fine.
Yeah. So I think that's the problem.
Right? We,
I
we
mean, I mean,
just we, we complain about Facebook. We complain on Facebook about it, and we get such large outpourings of people who say, "Oh yeah, everything's gonna be okay" and stuff like that. Like this is, I mean, I'm just gonna, I mean, I wanted to end the thing, but every year I always do a very large reflection post, and it's for me to look back and what I like to call a self-narrative exercise. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? The previous 2 years have been pretty much emo because this is me finishing up my university life. I'm going to the esports field. I don't have necessarily all the complete skills. I'm coming in here making lots of mistakes, and I want to reflect on those things to improve. And everybody comes and says like, yeah, take care and stuff like that, but it's like
that's not
that
what you
that
want.
that is not what I was looking for, right? That was not what I was looking for. This was I was being harsh on myself because I needed to be harsh on myself to improve. I mean, not. I mean, I of course I appreciate it that you guys are that there are people out there for me and that I do have friends in the online medium.
Yeah. Yep.
But who needs real friends when you have Facebook? The
Low.
1,800 of them.
Yeah. I mean, but I get where you're coming from. Like you're looking for like actual critic ways to prove.
Okay,
Random people who don't really
that
talk.
wraps it
That's
up.
just
See you next time.
all right.